We are
Didi
and Armand, and in our daily lives we support people on the path of self-liberation. We teach time-tested energy skills like Qigong, Tai Chi, internal alchemy, traditional nutrition and meditation.
We help people release stagnation, build energy, and become aligned with themselves and their purpose in life.
In this podcast, we share the methods, skills, and solutions that helped us, our students, and now hopefully you move forward.
Let's explore transformation together. Hi everyone, I'm Didi.
Hey everybody, Armand here, Chi Skills. Welcome to our podcast. And today is the start of our new season, the Chi Skills podcast. And we had a great idea. Just let's go back to the beginning. Since this is a beginning, let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah. So we did a podcast before about your Tai Chi story.
Yeah, the journey so far.
Yeah. And so we thought it's nice to talk about your first lesson.
Yeah.
What did you do? What lessons did you get? Was it what you expected, etc.? So how did that go? What happened?
Well, of course, I wanted to go into the internal arts, but I was a busy working musician at that time. So I was in a situation where I had a lot of time during the day, and then my life would be at night. So I was not in a situation that when I found a teacher or a school, I could go to the regular class.
Oh yeah.
Right? So that made a huge difference. So I had to take private lessons. So my first lesson was a private lesson with this teacher we found in The Hague, where we just moved. And I had a fascination with the internal arts. I had some experience with it, but I was so busy developing as a musician that I never really got really into it. And this wasn't the time where all this information was readily available on YouTube and stuff like that. There wasn't even YouTube in those days yet, maybe just about. So everything for me was really new. But I had some Tai Chi experience before. So I went with a friend of mine who was a teacher in England. I went with him and we went to class while he was teaching. And we just did these slow movements. And I was like, there's something about this, right? Yeah. So you go to this first lesson and you think, this is what we're going to do.
Oh, you thought the slow movements were...
Yeah, of course, that was my thing with Tai Chi. And so, but then you get there and it's not like that at all. Because we were standing for the whole hour.
Wow.
And I was thinking Tai Chi is movement, but this was no movement. This was all about standing. So my first experience of Tai Chi was standing practice. Not form training, not anything like that. And in hindsight, that made all the difference. This was a serious teacher.
Yeah.
And I think also for him, it was a test. It's like, who is this guy coming into class? And it's sort of a ritual to see, almost like a test, if you will, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so let's get this guy standing for an hour and see what happens. What is his reaction? Because my teacher at that time, Roel, he was not someone who was just going out there teaching large groups of people. He was very serious, and he had a small, very committed group of people training with him, some multiple times a week. So and he was more of the Tai Chi is a martial arts, of course, but not every teacher teaches it as a martial arts, but he did. He did, yeah.
And so then he said, okay, the standing practice is the thing we're starting with.
Yeah.
And that's what you did in the first lesson. So how did that go? How was your experience? You were standing there. How did that go? Was it easy? Was it something that you thought, what?
Well, it wasn't per se hard at that moment. It was more like what I didn't expect. So I was very fascinated. He put me in a position where he was talking about being open as a person. That, this is a foundational practice. He didn't call it Tai Chi. He called it Negung at that moment. So that's internal skill, if you translate it roughly. And he said, this is the foundation of what we're going to do, right? So it was more like he explained to me that this is a mold, if you will. You put yourself in a mold for a certain feeling and experience that sets up your construction and alignment So that if you train that first and then you start applying that in partner training, you start applying that in form training and all that stuff. Now you have this foundation, this solid foundation. And he said, this is the most important thing we're doing. So if you would even if you wouldn't train Tai Chi, if you would just do standing practice, it would be enough to just do internal training. And that was very fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's not what I expected, but because I was a working musician and I knew all about, building a foundation, technical foundation, it made complete sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was pretty heavy stance. It was not one of these super low stances that you sometimes see. No, it wasn't like that, but it sure was hard on the upper legs. And so not only physically it was hard, because right from that lesson, I started building that up. He gave me advice. He said, just build that up over a month to 20 minutes a day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started with 5 minutes a day, and which seems, when I look in hindsight now, which seems like such a short time, right? It's only 5 minutes with 5 minutes training. Yeah. But this 5 minutes was very focused on a certain time on the day, and it became a routine from there to just go stand every day and build it up from there. So the first week, 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, next week, third week, 15 minutes, fourth week was 20 minutes. And this 20 minutes was long. I experienced that as a long time. Yeah. Standing, because it was hard on me. It was hard on the legs. It was hard. Also mentally, it was hard. Yeah. There was this inner fight. So you get very confronted with yourself at that moment. Yeah. It's like, what am I doing? What
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of what I pick up from your story, and of course I know structure, alignment.
Yeah.
And you say it in different words, but there is a part mindfulness in there as well. That's
totally.
Maybe one of the most important things is that you say it's in this time you really need to focus and be there.
Yep.
Because if you are not focused, you lose your alignment, you lose your construction. And I think you creating a mold, as you say, you create this position where you're nice and open and where the energy can flow through your system.
We weren't even talking energy yet at that point. Not at all, really. That was not the case at all. That was something that just got in there at a certain time. This was, like you say, all about structural alignment, if you will. It was all about a feeling of roundness. He let me stand in this position. So he let me experience, it was like, he made this beautiful comparison to, let's say you go to an antique store and this old harness is standing there in a corner, like this is one of these medieval harnesses. And he says it's all battered up and it's rusty, etc. And it's out of shape. But you decide to buy it. It's $2. You decide, I bring that home. And then you start restoring that. You start to restore the harness. It's like, okay, let's polish that. Let's get out the dents. Let's get out, let's put it straight up so it's all about restoring something.
Yeah.
Right? Before you start talking about energy or that sort of thing, you're talking about restoring the physicality of the person. And this was for me so important. And like you say, it's absolutely a mindfulness thing. Yeah. Because you start, this is probably also my first experience with meditation, if you will. It's not like the meditation where you sit. It's not like a sitting practice. But it's the same thing, is that where do you focus on? Yeah. And you get very confronted with how monkey mind you are, right? Your mind is all over the freaking place. There were moments that I was standing at one moment and then found that I was, doing the dishes at the next moment. It's like, how did I get here? It's like I was standing, wasn't I? I was so distracted. That's what I felt. So there's so much coming together in this standing practice. And I'm so thankful for him that he started there. Because later when you start getting more into the Tai Chi world, and you meet other people, you start teaching yourself, and you talk to other people, is that they don't have that experience. A lot of them just start with form training, and that's it. And you follow the teacher, and that's see you next week. Which is completely empty. Yeah. And we started with, we started right at the core. It's like, okay, don't waste time. Start with this training, build your construction up, and really getting this observing thing in your system, getting this separation between, okay, here I am. I know I'm distracted. I want to do this, or I'm thinking about that, but I have to get back into my body. Yeah. Every time again, get back into my body. And then sort of, like with the harness, it's almost like, or sculpture, whatever. You're really so focused in your body that all these things, like joints and positioning of the arms, first is pretty rough, but then it becomes fine tuning, and that becomes a story, and that goes on for years. Yeah, years and years and years of standing practice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's we made, before we started, we were talking about a bit about my story, and I've not been in the Tai Chi world as much, but more what I did do was when I was 6, I started with ballet. I loved ballet.
Awesome.
And one of the things that you can compare with each other is that it's all about structure, alignment, and every lesson. Yeah. The teacher would always say how to stand up, how to carry your body. So there is alignment, because you cannot dance when you have no construction. Of course. It's just not possible to do these moves, and it looks so effortless, but there's a lot of construction alignment.
That's such a great skill. Yeah.
So when you were picking up this training, it reminded me a lot about the ballet training.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think when you're 6 years old, what does, at a certain point, you probably see it on the TV or something like that at that age. What attracts so much, right? What is this thing from ballet that's coming off that really, appeals to you? Yeah. It's probably the internal power that you also see in these people that develops from, and of course, it's all about expressing the energy in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Which is ballet is famous for. And I think this power thing, the powerful energy that can come up, because that's not even the beginning yet, of course, right? You're beginning with the foundations of the physical. Yeah. But then it can become an art. Yeah. Because now expression can come through that, right?
Absolutely. But I think what you see when people have a great construction, if they're standing up straight and you see a difference when people are cut off from their body.
Oh yeah.
And then
I was, right?
Yeah, yes. And then it seems that you're just not home.
Yep.
When you're there's
Yeah.
nothing there. But someone who is really in their body, then the system can open and there's a presence there.
Oh, of course.
So I think that really attracted me. And I have no idea, because with the ballet, my mom is always telling this story that I was 4 years old and there was nothing else that I wanted to do but dance.
Wow.
And my mom said, you cannot start classes until you're 6 years old.
Yeah,
so,
you're not allowed, right? You're too young, your body is too small.
Young. Yeah. And then I was on my 6th birthday. I told my mom I'm 6, so now I can go to ballet.
Let's go. Wow.
Yeah, and
so determined.
So I was really determined. There was something there that really attracted me, and still. So I danced till my 30th, I think. And then I moved into yoga, and after that into Qigong, and it's really...
there's such an overlap. It's natural. I think a lot of ballet people, even professionals, do yoga at the side and think, because this energy connection there, maybe it's not talked about it in that way per se, not like in the internal arts, but it's the same stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It's all about expression of energy. And so I really like when you said this, you're not home. So during the beginning phase of my training, which was very, very focused on this on this standing practice, because that was sort of the center of it, I started to change pretty quickly, really being aware of how I carried myself. The only thing was there was not enough filling yet, right? Internal filling to keep it up all the time, right? That happened over time, where that was just sort of, I was home all the time, if you will. Yeah. So, but it was really a magical time, I must say. So I did it for a long time. I changed in directions a little bit. Other standing practices that were more based on hermetic training, where we're looking at elements training. And but I'm so grateful for these first 8-9 years where I just did it daily, right? There was, maybe if I was really sick, I wouldn't stand, but every day I would just everywhere around the world,
And if there was no... because you would normally train with a record, and then you put a record on, and you knew, that's
20 minutes,
20. It was 20 minutes, so I know that record by heart. And then, but sometimes when we were away, there was no record, so then I was the one.
You were the clock.
Yeah. And I would call, it's time now.
Sometimes at certain situation, I would be, standing behind a tree somewhere on a campsite, and the tent would be close by somewhere, around dusk or something. And then and then you would keep the time, right? And it was and I thought, has she fallen asleep? Right? If she's fallen asleep, I'm just going to stand here, right?
Yeah, all night.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think a lot of people, that was really fun memories. But for a lot of people, it's like, the more you stand, the better. And you can stand for an hour, you can stand for multiple hours. For me, it was 20 minutes was really enough. With the focus that we had, it was, some people call it bitter eating, this sort of practice. It was pretty tough in the stance and everything. So it was more about just do this every day, this 20-minute thing. And it's not about the practice itself. Of course, you get great alignment. You start to understand what it means to be open. But it's everything. It becomes a center in your day. Yeah. It becomes also a routine. You start building a routine in something. And it becomes something that you start to really love. You start to look forward to it. It's like, I have this moment with myself, these 20 minutes where I'm sort of reshaping myself step by step, day by day. And it made all the difference for sure. Yeah.
And I think something else is also happening. What you do when you stand there for 20 minutes, you really get to know your body. So when everything is all right, or when something's off, you really focus at it. So you have a way to correct this, or and I think moving forward very quickly, all the things around it changed as well, because you feel, this is not sitting with me, or this is so...
Really. Yeah. Oh, totally. So the thing is, I'm already a pretty sensitive person, but the sensitivity became much bigger because of this focus, right? You start focusing, you start coming home.
Yeah.
And now your body, your energy, everything is like, I get attention again.
Yeah.
But it also starts giving you clearer signals about what it wants, right? What it expects of you. Because, of course, it becomes a sort of like one day you feel like this while you're training. Next day you feel fantastic. Then the next day is like, what happened? So you start to begin to see the different energy moods you have, right? Yeah. The moods and the energy you have that day and how that shifts. And your body starts really tell you, it's like, you need to sleep better. You need to eat better, because your bodies just start to really give you these signals. sometimes in a rough way, right? Especially with food. There was a time that there was a lot of food that just went through almost immediately because my body was just like, no, you start this, you really want to do this, now you have to change. So it becomes a center of discipline and etc., like I talked about, but now it becomes something complete. It's like it's telling you start to establish this connection and really starts telling you what it needs.
Absolutely.
And also sometimes you will have tremendous energy in a certain day. You're like, man, I'm the king. You know, it's like everything starts to work and my focus is great. I feel very positive. And then you pay the price 2 days later, right? And you're like, whoa, I gave all my energy away.
Yeah.
Right? It was gone. Right. Yeah. And I see that with students also, you know, especially people who went coming from like things like burnouts and something like that. You start building it slowly. And then they feels like, oh, I'm stable. And like, but it's not stable yet. So, but then at a certain point, you begin to notice, wow, I've made this decision, that decision, don't do that anymore, do more of this. Because you get more energy, right? You really get more energy. And now it's becomes so, it's more like you get more money, right? So you get more options, right? So how, but I don't want to lose it all, right? I want to, so yeah. I think you know what I mean. It's like it's all about how you regulate your energy.
Absolutely.
And this only came from this standing practice.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Of course, you know, I started the Tai Chi training, started partner training, started, you know, the martial arts aspects of the training. But this was like the holy thing.
Well, it was the starting point. I mean, you can have different starting points.
For sure.
But this was for you a starting point where it focused to and started your mindfulness and your alignment. You would carry yourself differently.
Yep.
And so, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was also, I'm that kind of guy. If I go in, I go in. And also, you know, you pray. You pay money for someone, and this is a real practical thing, but you have private teaching from a martial artist, right? And you go every week, and then you go and you're like, I did it twice a week, and but I'm not that guy. So I went in full, and that's that really helped.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
It's like that was. I mean, I was very motivated to do
absolutely.
it. So yeah.
So great.
So standing practice, I can recommend everyone to really pick that up and start working on yourself. Start working on your alignment, your construction. Get to know yourself, and discover the energy flows. And just it's an adventure. Just allow it to happen, and just go stand. Do that, and
see what's there for you.
See what's there for you.
Beautiful.
And I say it again, I'm so grateful for my teacher that he gave me this as my first lesson. And it was funny, I think I remember it's like maybe even the next week, right? The second lesson was like, so, and how did it go? Right? Because, you know, I'm not sure if everyone, you know, was like that. I was like, it went well. You know, I did it every day. And he was like, well, that's good. It's also sort of a test, I think, you know, but I was proud of it, you know, that I really made the decision to make it work and go. And that really started the whole adventure and why we're sitting here now,
Absolutely.
You know. So, Roel, if you're seeing this, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Means
Great.
a lot.
Yeah. I love that. So, that was the first of this season.
Yeah.
And
then we'll see you next week for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy training. Bye-bye.